Welcome to a video on how to get good at Guest 666, perhaps one of, if not the best contenders in Forsaken to uphold the best killer title to their name. Players who are able to master this walking definition of the word powerhouse, will be able to steamroll lobbies like it's absolutely nothing. Let's get started. Guest 666, or how most of us refer to them as Sixer, is the technical sixth killer in Forsaken. He is a mix of a snowball and rushdown killer playstyle, consisting of slowly building up blood for her blood hunt, to then using their blood hunt to sandwich lobbies like a damn hydraulic press. Her stats are a mix of non-promising and decently promising, with Sixer having the highest health out of any killer, at 2500, allowing her to tank a lot of damage in case that one big group of teamers decides to pull a chance firing squad on you. However, they are on the more slow side, like 1x1, having only a sprint speed of 27, as well as having the largest terror radius in the game, at a whopping 80 studs. His primary weapon of choice is the Carving Slash. Carving Slash works similarly to Slash's M1, dealing 20 damage, and is equipped with the same target piercing properties, allowing her to hit multiple survivors at once if more than one survivor are grouped together. However, Sixer has an additional trick up their sleeves, with them being the first killer in the game to, in a technical sense, have a double M1 attack. What I am talking about is Sixer's Eviscerate. Eviscerate functions like Slash's Behead. Upon use, Sixer will instead switch from his normal slash attack, into an attack where she will lunge forward and bite any survivor that is hit with the attack. If Eviscerate makes contact with a survivor, they will take 10 damage, and will be given the Hemorrhage debuff. Hemorrhage prevents survivors from regenerating HP by showing a bar on the survivor's screen slowly cover their health bar. Wherever the bar is filled on their health, is where they cannot heal past. For example, if Sixer gives the Shed Let's Key Hemorrhage, the effects won't kick in immediately, but they will slowly begin to show. After about 20 seconds, the hemorrhage bar should have covered about 40% of his health. Now say that he is in the injured state, and goes to heal back his HP with his fried chicken. The fried chicken will only regenerate the lost health that isn't covered by the hemorrhage bar. To preform Eviscerate, make sure you have at least 10 blood points added to your blood meter. Then, by holding down the attack button, you will use up 10 blood points. But in return, preform Eviscerate. Do know that Guest 1337 can block Eviscerate. Be careful when dealing with those generator hogging pricks. After using Eviscerate, one of two things can happen depending on the scenario. If Sixer uses Eviscerate and misses the attack, they will be given slowness 1 for about 3 seconds, and Eviscerate will go on 8-second cooldown. However, in the scenario where Sixer does hit Eviscerate, she will not be given slowness, fill the blood meter more, and half the cooldown to Eviscerate, meaning that if a Sixer can consistently hit Eviscerate, it is a free 30 damage towards the survivor, plus the hemorrhage effect if the survivor wasn't already applied with it. Now we move on to Sixer's passives. Sixer has a total of 3 passives, the first being Manic Fixation. Manic Fixation is a special highlight Sixer can apply to a survivor. This highlight is only available for Sixer. Other killers share their very own highlight as well, such as 1x1's Unstable Eye highlight, having the ability to display the health of survivors with color coding, and Null's Hallucination highlight showing how strong the effect is by darkening the purple color. When Manic Fixation is active on a survivor, they will be highlighted a bright red color. If the highlighted survivor is within line of sight of Sixer, regardless if they are behind a solid or transparent barrier, Sixer will be given a 10% speed increase for the duration of the Manic Fixation highlight. The speed boost will be given an extra 5% if Sixer is out of chase. As a cherry on top, Sixer can retain the Manic Fixation speed boost if he is within 30 studs of an affected survivor, regardless if they are in line of sight. Manic Fixation can also, in a technical sense, screw other survivors over, even if they are not affected by the highlight. Say if the target Sixer is chasing is low, and are not affected by the highlight, but another survivor gets too close to Sixer with Manic Fixation applied to the non-target, the affected survivor will more than likely get the target killed. Should also point out Manic Fixation will show its activation by making the 6er user's screen slowly become a blood-tinted red. When the effect ends, the screen gradient will return to normal. 6's second passive is Hellforged Will. Hellforged Will is a simple yet effective passive. When playing 6er, Hellforged Will is always active. This passive will reduce all timers on negative effects like slowness and subspaced, as well as stuns by 25%. To put into perspective, Shedletsky's sword has a 3-second stun. However, against 6er, becomes 2.25 seconds. This might not sound like much, but it can really help 6er keep up their game when chasing sentinels. The third and final passive is Bloodhound. Bloodhound is where 6's snowball playstyle comes in. If you deal damage to a survivor with your base attack, you will gain 10 blood points. The meter will start at 200 points. This is also where hemorrhage can come into play, as hemorrhaged survivors will begin slowly bleeding out blood orbs. Blood orbs do two things: 1, they add 15 blood points to the meter, and 2, can reduce all of 6's ability cooldowns by 3 seconds, as long as said abilities are on cooldown. We will get to what happens when the meter is full later. Moving on to 6's abilities. They have 3 abilities, with a technical 4th one, but we will get to that later. His first ability is Demonic Pursuit. Demonic Pursuit functions similarly to that one red shitly parented child's ability, aka Walk Speed Override, but with noticeable changes. Upon use of Demonic Pursuit, 6er will rear down on all fours and lunge forward at a great distance, with a large hitbox to cover them. Making contact with a survivor with this ability will cause 6er to pin them to the ground, before clawing violently at their face, then throwing them aside. The ability will do 5 ticks of damage. Each tick does 5.2 damage, capping at 26. This ability will also give survivors hemorrhage. After throwing the survivor, they will have some time to run from you, with end lag to follow at the end of the animation. However, missing Demonic Pursuit can vary on the punishing level, both towards the survivor and 6er. We will get to that later. However, this ability is also equipped with 2 unique traits. The first is its capability to be aimed vertically. This means if you look upward to however much you desire, 6er will lunge both forward and upward, allowing him to catch survivors on elevation. The second is its ability to be empowered. Simply put, if the 6er keeps holding down the ability button, Demonic Pursuit will charge up more, increasing the travel distance, speed, and damage. This is where the punishing of this ability can go for survivors. There are 3 states of Demonic Pursuit's charge power: normal, high, and max. High charges launch 6er a bit more, and deals more damage, with the damage ticks increasing to 6.6 damage, capping at 33, and the max charge launching them greatly, with damage ticks increasing to 8, capping at 40 damage in total. Be careful using this ability, especially with the charge mechanic, because if you miss, you're being sent across the fucking globe, and can easily lose chase. If 6er collides with a wall, the lunge hitbox will end, and they will have some end lag before being able to run again. After using Demonic Pursuit, it goes on a 30-second cooldown. 6er's second ability is Infernal Cry. Upon use, 6er will slow down, and then roar loudly, with a directional sound wave to travel in the direction they are looking. Do know, this ability functions like Corrupt Nature, being aimable. However, unlike most ranged attacks, the sound wave has a limited range. Despite this, it still has a great range cap, and travels quickly, allowing for occasional mid-range sniping. If a survivor is hit by Infernal Cry, they will be given Manic Fixation and blindness. Their camera will also be pulled to where the 6er is currently. To put into perspective, Noob is facing to 6er's right. Noob is also in shift lock. After hitting Noob with Infernal Cry, their camera was pulled to look at 6er. This mechanic is pretty niche, but can occasionally have its uses. However, if a hemorrhage-affected survivor is hit with Infernal Cry, the primary effects remain, but they will drop 2 blood orbs. After the ability is used, it will go on a 20-second cooldown. 6er's third ability is Blood Rush. Blood Rush is the equivalent of John Doe's 404 error if it was good. Upon use, Sixer will stop moving, and begin sniffing the air around them, like there was some delicious fucking aroma from a freshly baked pie. During this, every currently alive survivor will be highlighted with manic fixation. An interesting trait to Blood Rush is its distance inclusion buff. Depending on how far a survivor is from Sixer, will scale how long the manic fixation highlight will last for. At maximum, it will last for 20 seconds if the survivor is at the most 200 studs from Sixer. Another interesting trait is that Sixer is able to use their abilities after a certain point. Even if they are still within the Blood Rush duration, you can use this to catch unaware survivors off guard, such as a surprise demonic pursuit, or unexpected infernal cry. After using Blood Rush, it will go on a 30-second cooldown. Now, remember how I said that Sixer has a technical fourth ability? Well, this is where it shines. Upon reaching the max amount of blood your blood meter can hold, the Blood Rush icon will change into a bright red, with Sixer staring right back at you. This ability is called Blood Hunt. Blood Hunt is basically Raging Pace, but if it was overdosed on crack. Upon use, Sixer will begin covering his face while growling. After about 2 seconds, she will roar loudly, turning the entire map into a blood red color. As for the survivors, they have only 2 options: either they fucking run for their miserable lives, or they try to hide from this pitbull that crawled out of the 7th circle of hell. Whilst Blood Hunt is active, Sixer is given an extreme amount of buffs, but we will list the general effects of Blood Hunt first. All survivors will now be constantly highlighted during its duration. Also, survivors like Noob, or any survivor with the ability to give themselves undetectability, are completely mitigated by Blood Hunt's effects, as the highlight cuts right through undetectability. Happy hunting those piece of shit mosquitoes who keep crouching when you enter .001 studs of their territory. The duration of Blood Hunt is 25 seconds. However, it can both be scaled and increased. If Sixer is in chase, the timer of Blood Hunt will drain 50% slower, making it a total of 50 entire fucking seconds. If Sixer kills a survivor during Blood Hunt, the duration will increase by 15 seconds. However, for every kill, the duration increase amount will slowly decrease to a random amount. Speaking of timer, the round timer will also decrease 50% slowly whilst it is active. As a cherry on top, it can also keep the round timer going even if the game has already ended. Now, moving on to the buffs that his kit receives. Firstly, Eviscerate now lunges Sixer farther. As for their passives, Hellforged Will is now doubled in strength, at 50% negative effect immunity, making stuns feel like the Sentinel is slapping you with a wet spaghetti noodle of failure. Also, the hemorrhage effect now plays a part during Blood Hunt for 2 purposes. For one, hemorrhaged survivors will now be highlighted with a different color, now blinking a very light red, indicating which survivors have hemorrhage or not. And 2, hemorrhage now combos with demonic pursuit. To explain, hemorrhage has a secret passive to it that only activates upon Blood Hunt's activation. It now acts as a scale. For every unhealable point that hemorrhage covers on a survivor's health bar, it will add 0.4 damage to demonic pursuit. Now, say a survivor has hemorrhage, and the debuff is covering their entire health bar. If demonic pursuit is used on that specific survivor, they will now take 13 damage per tick, capping at 65 for a normal charge. It gets better when we include the high and max charge for demonic pursuit. High charge will shift to 14.4 per tick, capping at 72, and the max charge will tick at 15.8, capping at 79 damage. Infernal Cry also received some buffs as well. Now, hitting a survivor with Infernal Cry, regardless of affected hemorrhage, will grant the same normal effects. However, it now grants Sixer 2 status effects: Speed 1 for 3 seconds, and Strength 1 for 8 entire seconds. To put into perspective, say Sixer hits an Infernal Cry on a max hemorrhaged survivor, then proceeds to use a max charge demonic pursuit on the victim. Since Strength 1 add an additional 20% extra damage, the max charge will deal a fucking unholy 94.8 damage, allowing Sixer to almost completely devastate the entire Survivor cast. This technically makes Demonic Pursuit the strongest ability in the entire game in terms of damage. After Blood Hunt ends, Sixer will go back to normal, and the blood meter cap will increase by 50 points for every Blood Hunt used. In terms of strengths, Sixer's decent snowballing can screw over lobbies of survivors if they gather enough blood. Hemorrhage is capable of completely shutting down support survivors like Elliot and Builderman by preventing them from healing others. Demonic Pursuit can be a great punishing tool if certain survivors like Sentinels miss their stun. Infernal Cry can be used to keep Manic Fixation on a survivor for as long as possible, as well as for gathering blood points. Blood Rush is a great tool for searching for a new target and applying Manic Fixation, and Blood Hunt's overwhelming capabilities can overpower the entire survivor team, leading to an easy killer victory. However, Sixer's large size leads her open to Sentinels like Chance, who can stun from a safe distance. Demonic Pursuit can easily punish Sixer if he misses the attack. And with Manic Fixation being Sixer's only anti-loop capability, it leaves them open to looping problems compared to most killers having an effective anti-loop like John Doe and Slasher. If Sixer can't gather blood points to replenish their abilities quickly, they won't be able to keep Manic Fixation on a survivor, nor will they be able to unlock Blood Hunt, especially when it comes to Infernal Cry. Thanks to this guide, you will now be able to know how to play the very red and evil Hellhound from the Wrath layer of Hell. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.